just a bloke in a bar.
Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN.
Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith, and I just heard that ad, Smithy. You are a pro. You are a pro, mate. How have you been, buddy?
Oh, Kempy, I've been well, mate. There's plenty happening in rugby league world, as it always does. But I've been good. I've just been relaxing. We had a 3-day lockdown in the southeast Queensland pocket. And yourself, you're obviously down in Sydney at the moment. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm
down
going
there?
crazy, mate. I'm going crazy.
You are?
Mrs. is off me. Mrs. is off me. We're on our last legs, mate. We're on the rocks. We're on the rocks, but we'll pull through. We'll pull through, as all good relationships do.
That's good.
Talk about not pulling through. Unfortunately, over the week, there's been a huge drama at the Dragons.
Wow.
It's the biggest story in rugby league. There's a lot of rugby league about it when it comes to poor decisions being made. Paul Vaughan and 12 other Dragons players had a party at their house on the Saturday after their great win against the Warriors on Friday, a Golden Point win. Now, the fallout essentially has been Vaughan was hit with a $50,000 fine, 8-game suspension by the NRL, while the other players were hit with a game each, and then the fines went down, per person. So, for example, Jabellin got $45,000. I think Corey Norman was around the $40,000, and then it descended
based on
from
salary,
there.
isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Now, what are your thoughts? As a senior player of every team, you've pretty much. I mean, it's called the Captain's Run. What are your thoughts on the whole drama?
Oh, it's just it's very disappointing, isn't it, mate? Like these guys are well aware of what they can and can't do, and for our listeners, so they're sort of educated on the situation in the NRL, and they all. People hear about the bubble and all this sort of stuff all the time. So the bubble is essentially it's its own little world that NRL players, officials, staff members have to live in, and they're separated from the public by different rules, and they're actually a lot more strict than the general public, given the situation of flying interstate to play matches and play people living in different locations around the country. And making sure that is always a clean zone for those people to work in. Now the players are well aware of what they can and can't do. So that's what makes it so disappointing that this actually happened, where these players, it was a choice they made. Kempy, that's the most disappointing thing. They chose to live and outside of those rules that they've been given. Now, considering that there's one team in the competition that have had to spend the best part of nearly 2 years now living away from home and family and loved ones, and I'm speaking about the Warriors, considering they've made a huge sacrifice to do that's just a huge slap in the face to those people alone, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not to mention putting the entire competition in jeopardy. Because all that needs to happen is for, a government official either in Victoria, New South Wales or Queensland to, get the shits and it's done. They just stop the competition. And then where does how many people are employed by the NRL or have jobs or roles within all of these competitions, let alone staff that work at the stadiums on the weekend, that could have put everyone's jobs at jeopardy.
Absolutely, and it's the broader public, the fans who are struggling right now. There's a lot of people going through so much hardship, and yet they still fork out their hard-earned coin to support our game.
Yep, exactly.
And so,
right.
Look, I'm mates with Corey Norman, I'm mates with Vaughan, and I feel for them to the extent of I hope their mental health is okay.
Exactly.
But the broader picture of this is the fact that so many people have sacrificed so much to give these guys an opportunity and a privilege of being able to continue to earn their income.
Yes.
And they've just, I guess, thought that they weren't going to get caught, I guess.
Yeah, and to make matters worse too, these guys aren't rookies.
No.
They've been in the game now for a long, long time, and they know what's expected of them. And as we mentioned, this isn't something that it's just popped up. We've played an entire season last year under the same conditions. It's a shame that they chose to, they made the decision that they thought, well, we'll be okay, we won't get caught, and we'll do our own thing. It's really frustrating considering that there's so many people that are doing the right thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, from a perspective of a senior player and a captain, what a lot of people and a lot of fans may not know is these standards are usually driven by the senior players, not the coaching staff. It's usually the senior players that would, for example, let's say we're at, the Storm and you get wind of Cam Munster and a few of the boys were thinking about having a few beers, which I'm sure you got that wind a lot of weekends.
Yeah.
But you would immediately message and say, boys, don't you dare think about doing that. Now, what would, from a senior player's perspective going forward, what would you do for the Dragons, for their fans, for the club? They're in the finals. They're in the top 8.
Yeah. Well, given now that they've had some mass suspensions to several of their players, like that puts their season at jeopardy. So, like from a Dragons fan's point of view, like you'd be filthy, wouldn't you?
Oh,
but if you're a senior player there and you weren't part of that group, like you got to drag those boys in and just tell them how you feel. You got to be honest.
Yeah.
The great organisations, that's what they're good at. They're very good at dealing with issues straight away and being upfront and honest to people's faces. Not going, talking in the back corridors to other people about certain others. It's about confronting those people that have caused an issue and just telling them face to face how disappointed you are. And it's not what we are as an organisation. It's not who we are as people. And explain to them that there's a much greater expectation on their behaviour and the choices that they make.
Absolutely. Like, when I was playing, I was always, not in the senior playing group. And I can just imagine the first thing walking in, the senior players would have pulled us aside and given us an absolute revving. I mean, as far as to say, they would have been like, mate, I'll go and speak to the coach and you're gone. If I ever see that's how cutthroat it was back when I was coming through. And again, look, we were notoriously cutthroat, but that's what it's like.
Yeah, it is, mate. And my experiences in Melbourne, I was a captain there for a long time, and any time a situation arose like that and like we're talking about, there was no dramas for myself. Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, all the past senior players that were involved in that organisation. Like they got dragged in front of us straight away, and it was hit. He was hit on the head on the Monday morning, and it was explained to them the decisions they made were far from the expectation on them as far as being a Melbourne Storm player, and that the decisions that they make, that has a consequence on the way we feel about them as people too. And if they're going to continue down that line of behaviour, then maybe this is the wrong organisation to be a part of.
Absolutely.
So that was made fairly clear to them, and thankfully, very thankful that nearly every player that sort of had a misdemeanor along the way, they turned it around pretty quickly, and there was no more.
Absolutely, and I think that's the players are going to respond most to other players when it comes. There's nothing worse as a younger player feeling guilty. Yeah,
letting down one of your peers, isn't it? Particularly a senior player, and knowing that they're disappointed in your behaviour, and more times than not, they're going to turn the corner and be on the straight and narrow.
Now, where do you think this lands Dragons season? To a lot of people, they were considered one of the favourites for the wooden spoon. They've shocked and surprised, including myself. I did not think they would be in the 8. I think it's been such a great year, so it's so disappointing to see that this may have derailed them. Do you think it has derailed them?
Well, mate, what are we, round 17? There's still a few rounds to go. What does that suspension take them to? That finals, obviously?
Yes.
That takes them to finals, I think. Look, they just got to do their best now to hold on, really. And who have they got coming up? They've got who have they got? Oh, well, they've got. Let me have a quick look here. They got Manly. Well, thankfully they got a bye this week.
Yes.
Then they got Manly. I don't know if you find a much tougher opponent than that at the moment.
Wow.
Manly followed by Titans, Rabbitohs. Canberra, mate. They play Penrith Roosters. Like they play Rabbitohs again. Like it's a
My God.
it's a really solid back half of the season for them. And this is what I mean. Like unfortunately, these blokes haven't thought about consequences at all when they've made this decision to have this little house party. And now, for all the hard work that they've put in, not just in the first 16 rounds or 17 rounds, when they started at the end of last year in their preseason training and all through the summer, they put themselves in a great position on the ladder to take themselves into finals footy. And now that could all be gone because of just a party that they've thrown and thought that, no one will find out about it and whatever. And just, it's just craziness. But I hope this is a lesson learned. Like the one thing you ask for is that when people make a mistake and when particularly, younger guys and in rugby league, if they make a mistake, learn from it. Please, fellas. Learn from your mistake and don't let it happen again.
I think for the Dragons, the silver lining is this is a great opportunity for Hook to set a standard, to go, this has happened.
Yep.
This is the team we are going to be going forward. Now, again, it's very hard as a Dragons fan to, look at the bright side.
Yeah.
But the bright sides, sometimes there is a bright side in situations where it gives you an opportunity to lay the law down and say, this is not the team we want to be going forward. And I'm sure Ben Hunt is sitting there saying, that's not the team I want to lead around going forward.
Yeah.
They could bounce out of this, even next year when it comes to just making sure that this never happens again.
Yeah. Like you said, mate, this could be a line in the sand moment for them as far as, their you use the word culture, but just the way their behavioural standards and just who they are and the way they want to be seen as a club. Because at the moment, like people looking in at the Dragons, and I dare say, some of their fans, they'd be extremely disappointed with the things that have gone on over the last 7 days.
Absolutely. Now, don't forget to send us a text anytime, 0457 736 736. After the break, we'll chat all things Origin. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith, brought to you by Bloke in a Bar, the crispest, smoothest, most Australian beer you've ever tasted. Ever tasted. Go to your local independent, grab a case, or go to our store locator on our website. Now, we've got some text, Smithy.
Yes, mate.
G'day, Goat and Smithy. Wow.
Yeah.
He's giving me a rap.
The Goat.
Best text so far. G'day, Goat and Smithy. G'day, Goat and Smithy. Do you think Vaughan will get another contract in Australia or will he go overseas? I think he gets another contract.
Yeah, good question. I believe he will. Yeah, I think he will. And not sure how much time he'll spend away from the game, whether it's a couple of weeks the rest of this season, but I reckon someone will pick him up for sure.
Broncos. I'm whispering your name, Broncos. We
Broncos.
could use a great Vaughan, a redemption Vaughan.
Well, mate, I've seen the Broncos I've seen Aaron Wood's name come up with the Broncos as well.
Well, I do or do not know that, it probably will be settled soon with where Woods will be. I'm not sure where, but it will be settled soon. Apparently, that's what a little birdie told me.
The great Woodsman.
He would be a great pickup for the Broncos because, he gets through good, solid work and he is a good, rep player, senior player, exactly what we need. Hi, gents, I agree with everything you've said. As someone who spent 4 straight months in lockdown last year, it's a slap in the face to those who try to do the right thing. Smithy, have you had the conversation with Billy JT about coaching role for Queensland in the future? Skip from Robertson, cheers.
Skip, I haven't, considering that Paul Green's the current coach, so I'm not discussing. No, I'm not discussing sort of a role in there when there's another coach. But I've maybe something a little bit further down the track, Skip, where I'll get involved with Queensland, but not at this current stage.
Well, Smithy, if you ever need a social media manager, I am your man. I am your man,
you are?
Smithy. I'll work for free. Mate. Get in there, get the cameras,
get you straight in.
Mate, get the boys all riled up for an Origin win. Okay, speaking of Origin, the Blues have selected Mitchell Moses and Whiten in the halves after Cleary and Luai went down with injuries. What are your thoughts?
I was a little bit surprised, Campy, I must say. And this isn't saying that Mitch Moses doesn't deserve the opportunity to play Origin. He certainly does. I was just a little bit surprised given the players that the Rabbitohs already have in the New South Wales side, particularly Damien Cook. Now, Cook's the 9. I thought it would have been a really easy transition just to slip Adam Reynolds straight in as the half. He takes care of the goal kicking as well with Cleary out. And he's probably got the best short-king game in the competition as well. I just thought they would have gone with him at half, with Latrell Mitchell out on the edge as well, Cam Murray also. But no, they've gone with Mitch Moses. I just don't know whether that complements the game of Jack Whiten either at 6. Now, remembering Jack Whiten, he has represented New South Wales now on half a dozen occasions, but they've either been in the centres or off the bench. Now, this year, we haven't actually seen a lot of Jack Whiten on the field.
Yeah.
Given the way the games have panned out in the first 2 games and the scoreline and whatnot, they just haven't needed him out there. He's a different style 6 where his strength is running the ball. All right, he's not as much a ball playing 5'8" as a Luai, and as we've seen, where New South Wales have been so strong is when they've given the ball to their centres.
Absolutely.
Either Latrell or Tommy. Tedesco also having a fair bit of contribution in game 2 as well. I just don't know whether Mitch and Jack are the sort of the best combination they could have taken into it. Obviously, Brad Fittler and the selectors feel it is. And maybe they had, because they've already wrapped up the series, I reckon they had a bit of an eye on the future with Mitch. But from my point of view, I still would have gone with Adam Reynolds. I strongly feel about that.
So would have you gone Adam Reynolds and Whiten or Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker?
No, I would have been happy to keep Whiten.
Okay.
I would have been happy to keep Whiten there. But I just would have had Reynolds in there with his combination with Cook and Latrell and Cam Murray on the edge. But there's a case there for Cody Walker also. If you take Adam Reynolds, do you take Cody Walker like they did in the first 2 matches with the Penrith combination?
Yes.
But I would have been happy for Jack Whiten, considering the series is already gone. I would have been happy to keep Jack Whiten at 6 with an Adam Reynolds, who, like I said, it covers all bases when you take Cleary out with the kicking game, the goal kicking, and just his general organisational skills in the number 7 jersey.
Yeah, the really interesting thing, and you've already touched on this, the really interesting thing was the damage that was done was essentially Cleary and Luai taking a backward step. To the untrained eye, let's say you didn't know who Cleary was and you didn't know who Luai was for the first 2 games, and you'd never watched a game of footy, you probably wouldn't sit there and go, "Oh wow, they tore them apart and they were these superstars." But they actually played their role to perfection.
They did, mate. Yeah, they what they did was they tore Queensland apart with their craft. And their ball playing ability and the tempo that they played with, like whether they were going fast or whether they played slow. And just what they did was they give Latrell and Tommy space out wide and opportunities for one-on-one tackles with their opposite number. So they and really late in the game, things opened up for themselves as well, where they were involved in some line breaks and whatnot. But you're right. They really didn't try to overplay their hand where it was all about them. They've seen early that there was opportunities out on their edges, and with the work of Isaiah Yeo in the middle as well, they just created space for their outside men, and they were smart. They just didn't go away from it. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think the style of footy that New South Wales will take into game 3 will be too much different to the first 2 matches. I'm just interested to see how this new combination will work between Mitch, Moses, and Jack Whiten.
The other selection that a lot of people are talking about, and it's actually surprised me because I think it's a good selection, is Api Coruscant at 14 instead of going for a genuine utility in the sense that Whiten could essentially play anywhere. Some people argue Hines could have been a better utility. What are your thoughts about Api at 14?
Yeah, I like it, and he deserves it. And they've had the luxury of going into this game already winning the series, mate. So that's a lot of these decisions would be based on the situation that they find themselves in. At 2-0 already. But I think it'll be a great addition for the Blues, bringing Appy in. He was outstanding on the weekend for Penrith. And the thing is too, at a pinch, he could play in the halves as well. Like he could
Yes.
fill a role at 7 or possibly 6 as well, without sort of too much changing. He plays that similar style of game from 9 anyway, where he does a fair bit of ball playing at Penrith, and he can mix it up too with his running game and all that sort of stuff. And he's a very strong defender. So
Absolutely.
I think that's why he's Brad Fittler has gone that way with Appy on the bench.
I think he's the perfect guy. If there are no injuries, I think he actually has the most impact out of anyone, because you bring him on at 20 minutes and he's ball playing, but also he's ball running. It's like, adding a fresh Damien Cook.
Oh, please.
So,
please,
that's gonna be
don't
a
talk
nightmare.
about that. Don't talk.
Make sure to give us a text after the break, 0457 736 736. We'll chat the Queensland side here on a Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith, brought to you by Cameron Smith's Beard. Oh, that's the wrong ad. Apologies, mate. We've got some breaking news. South's game on Friday has been moved to Newcastle. Also,
Wow.
Origin Game 3 has been moved to Newcastle. Thoughts, Smithy?
Is that confirmed? Origin 3?
Yes, confirmed.
Wow, I think that must be just hot off the press, because I think the commission were having a meeting as we started the show. So Newcastle, great. Well, great for Newey.
Absolutely.
Great for Newey. Good to see. Well, 2 matches of the Origin series this year played in the regional towns of Queensland and New South Wales, and they will be going nuts.
Oh, wow.
They will be going nuts in Newcastle. Good on them.
What do you reckon Joey's thinking right now?
Oh, mate, he's probably going up there now. He'll be on a bender from now until Origin, and then when they lift the shield there, he'll be another week.
Mate, I reckon
Only
they
joking,
should unveil a statue of Joey before kickoff.
Has he
Surely.
not got one there?
One of the biggest travesties in Australian sport, in my
That's
opinion.
crazy. Crazy.
Absolutely. Okay, now the Queensland side, the great Kalen Ponga is back.
Oh,
Oh my God, what a
finally.
relief. Wow. And we also have Hamiso making his debut in the centres. What do you think about those two selections?
The hammer. Well, Ponga was the fullback in game 1 to start with before he withdrew with the groin issue. So no great surprise that he's back, and it's so good to hear that he's back and playing, and he was fantastic on the weekend. Absolutely blitzed them for Newcastle. And how good is it? He's making his comeback this year. It's pretty much a home game for him.
Yes.
Playing in front of
yes.
he's home, sort of home away from home fans. The hammer, I think we've been speaking about this, Kempy, over the course of the series, about the depth of the Queensland sort of talent pool at the moment, and in particular the centres. So they've it's finally taken to game 3 to pick someone with a bit of speed
Yes.
out there, and thankfully it's given us an opportunity to sort of, I don't know, maybe score points or even stop the opposition from scoring points out there.
Yep.
Kirk Capewell now gets to go back into his favoured back row position, so it's probably a more balanced looking football side now than what we had in the first 2 games. So it's great. Look, I'm so pleased for the hammer. He's only just started his first grade career, but now gets an opportunity to play State of Origin, and very happy for him. And I hope it's a long career that he has in the maroon jersey.
I've got to ask you this because, and look, I know I trade in hyperbolic statements. I know that's my trade, but I genuinely want to ask you this. When it comes to the biggest test in Origin history, considering Tom Trbojevic form, considering it's Hamiso's debut, considering he's only, 20 years old, is this one of the biggest tests in Origin history?
Absolutely. Like it's a big test to mark up on Tommy in clubland at the moment.
Yes.
But the form that he's showing, or that he has showed in the blue jersey in the first 2 matches, is just it's crazy, the form that he's in. Like on form, like he's the best best player in the competition now, and there's a gap to second, and he's just found that zone. I was actually making comment to Matty Guy. I caught up with Matty Guy earlier today, and I said to him, mate, it reminds me a lot of the form that Jared Hayne was in 2009, where Parra, they were just bumbling along, and then he just went bang, bang, like 7 weeks straight. I think he got 7 man of the matches in a row.
Yes, he did.
In 09, and really just dragged them into a grand final. That's where Tommy's at the moment. Like, think about Manly's season. Like they were really struggling early, weren't they?
Mate, I'll give you a stat.
Yeah, go on.
It was the worst start to a season in the first 4 games ever outside of 2002 Cowboys. That's how bad their start was until Tommy came back.
Well, there you go. And then what have they dropped only one match
Against Penrith.
Against Penrith. So, that shows the impact that he's having on the teams that he's representing right now. So, when you're in that sort of that frame of mind to go out, and when you pull on your jersey, everyone else around you just gains so much more confidence. That shows that you're such an elite player, and in that form, it's crazy. But I hope the Hammer does well. He's just got to go in, like it's State of Origin, he's got to go in there confident and just have an aggressive frame of mind just to go out there and shut Tommy down. I know it's easy for us to say. It's easy for us to say. But, if anyone's going to do it, one of the fastest men in the comp can do it in Hammer.
Absolutely. Now, just speak about the importance of moving Capewell back to his preferred position, how much that's going to help Queensland coming out of trouble, hitting points on the field, putting pressure on their halves. How much does it help Queensland?
Well, he's more comfortable now. Like, it's in his position, his preferred position. It's the position he plays in every week for Penrith. So he doesn't have to worry about, is he going to get beaten on the outside by speed? Does he have to worry about, double defending, an inside man like Tedesco coming at him, and then is he going to pass? Is he going to show? He's just very comfortable playing in that 4-in position, and it just allows him to play his best game as well.
Yeah.
So when everyone's out there just worried about their own role and not worrying about anything else, it'll make the team play better. So that's why I was saying before about the balance of the team for Game 3 is so much better than what we've seen in the first 2 matches. And I've felt sorry for Kurt throughout this series. He's had to mark up on 2 of the best centres in the competition, and he's done his very best. But now he goes back to his favourite position, and hopefully that results in a strong performance for Queensland and hopefully a victory in Game 3.
Absolutely. Now on to the next biggest talking point of the round. It's the score blowouts. Now, 4 games on the weekend were decided by 38 plus. Now, to be fair, there were close games, but when you look at things like, I think it was Manly who have consecutively put on 50 plus points.
3
times.
3 in a row.
You've got the Melbourne Storm breaking 40 plus records. What do you think about the blowouts?
Well, mate, it'd be interesting to get our listeners' views on this. Guys, make sure you text in 0457 736 736. I don't like it. I don't like it. Some people love it. The tries and all this sort of stuff. But fair dinkum, 50-0. Like I like sitting down. I like sitting down with a cup of tea on a Sunday arvo and a little bicky. And I can do that now. But tune in to, watch the Sunday arvo footy, and I want it to be a tight contest. I like how one team outlasts the other. I don't like watching the footy at half time. It's 30-0. Yeah. And I said this on Vossi show on Monday. My team, I'm Storm supporter, as everyone knows. That some of the games that they've played this year, like I've dead set turned it off at half time and just walked away, and I thought, the boys have got another victory. This isn't really the type of footy that I enjoy watching, so I'm going to go do something else. And for me, that's, as a fan of rugby league and a fan of the NRL, that's the worrying thing for me, is that how many people are turning off or walking out, particularly walking out of the stadiums early because of these blowout matches.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the unique facets of rugby league was the toughness of it, was the grittiness of it, was the grind. That's one thing that we have that, say, NFL doesn't have. NFL has the flashiness and they have these huge super athletes that are incredible. But the one unique part of rugby league was the gritty grind, men and women that were willing to go 80 minutes under all sorts of pressure.
Yep. And that was the thing. That was the contest, wasn't it? It was like, who is going to break first and who's willing to stay in the fight longer. And that's what rugby league is, and that's what it has been since day dot. That's what what we grew up watching. Unfortunately, with a few changes now in the rules, it's completely changed the look of the game.
Absolutely. Don't forget to join the conversation on 0457 736 736. After the break, we'll chat with my new best friend, Tristan, from TopSport, as we check out the odds for round 16 on the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We have the great Tristan. I've been counting down the seconds until I hear your voice, mate. How have you been? Give us some odds, mate. Give us some odds.
Very good, Campy. How about yourself?
Mate, I'm feeling much better. Much better. I'm speaking to you now.
Well, likewise, feelings mutual. We've got a big Origin game coming up this time next week or a bit later. So Queensland's actually a bit shorter in the market this week with obviously a couple of New South Welshmen out of contention. But the $1.20 New South Wales, $4.60 Queensland, and the line's 14 flat. What's the early thoughts there, boys? Are we any chance to get a bit of pride back?
$4.60 still.
I mean, wow.
Wow. Bring them. Can we get? Why aren't we any shorter than that with Cleary and Luai out?
Yeah,
and we got Ponga's back.
Yeah, Ponga back. A couple of changes there in the forward pack. I reckon it's a good bet. I reckon as well there's a lot of pride, as you know, Cam. There's a lot of pride there for the Queenslanders to play for. So it's going to be a really intense battle, and $4.60 I think is going to be a really good option there for the punters. But on a probably more positive, likely note, we've got an Aussie into the semi-finals at Wimbledon, which is exciting. Ash Barty $1.44 against Angelique Kerber. $2.84, which is on tomorrow night. So are you guys tennis fans, or how do you see that?
Yeah, no, I'm tipping Ash to completely annihilate Kerber. She's on fire. Like how many? She's hardly lost in the last 2 years.
She's incredible. She's one of my favourite Australian athletes.
Great.
Honestly, I love it.
Great Queenslander as well, boys.
And if she,
yes, let's go. That's a
bit of cricket.
great omen for
she can
Queensland.
hold up the title. $2.50 she is to win the title. So yes, I agree. It'd be a great omen for Queensland in the lead into Wednesday next week. So fingers crossed we can get Ash Barty over the line. And I've just got something. I'm sure you guys know we haven't had ultimate success with our charity bet. Been a fair way from successful. So what we might do next week, we'll all pick our leg for a same game multi for Origin. But I don't like overruling the captain. Obviously, we're on the captain's run here, but I'm going to pull rank today. I've got a tip out there for the listeners.
Yep.
Eagle Farm, race 9, number 6, a horse called Provide. I've got a little share in it. It's $9. I reckon we've got to throw something on it each way. We'll put 100 on it each way, and we'll hopefully kick the ball off for our charity account to try to get something rolling, a bit of momentum before next week.
So that's racing today, Tristo, Eagle Farm?
Racing today. Race 9, number 6 at Eagle Farm Provide. Jimmy Byrne on. Desley forced to the trainer. So any of the listeners out there, have a little each way bet. It's come up from Sydney, and it was very unlucky in its last start. I think it's going to be very difficult, very, very hard to beat today.
I might get around that too.
Mate, thank you so much for calling in and making my day better, making all of our day better, Tristan. I'll see you next week, and I can't wait to hear your voice, mate.
See you, Tristan.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Make sure to download the app. We've got plenty of text, Smithy, plenty of text. We've got one from Mark. Hey, fellas, I love the game. I sit down to watch pretty much every game every week. These days, I still start to watch the game, but once they start blowing out, I lose interest and either change the channel. Another text here, is the reason for the Broncos clean out of players the realisation they paid overs to players not performing and lost players because of this? What do you think about that, Smithy?
Oh, I think that's part of the reason, yeah. And many clubs in similar situations where they've got players on long-term deals, on big money. Those particular players aren't quite performing the way that they expected them to. So they've found themselves in a bit of a hole with trying to then, plan for future and buying other players. So that's the position they're in. They've made some positive changes, I feel, and great to see the boys get up on the weekend, Kempy, the Broncos.
Yes,
but yeah, that's one of the reasons. Of course it is.
Now we've got some more texts here. Gentlemen, with the huge attacking momentum created by new NRL rules, we need to consider when points are scored, the non-scoring team bring the ball back into play with a 20-metre tap to restart instead of a kickoff to the scoring team.
Wow.
What do you think about that? That's a big call. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, it would be another huge rule change. Imagine bringing back now, being scored against the team that scores. Remember when Super League was in?
Yeah.
The team that scored a try, they'd come back and they'd kick the ball off. So if you were scored against, you actually restarted play with the ball in your hands. Be interesting to see what that would look like now with the trend of how momentum changes, and it can really go one team's way for a period of time where you could score 3 or 4 tries unanswered. So it'd be interesting to see now where if you were the team that scored a try, you'd go back to halfway and kick off to the opposition.
Well, I just hope that, like, if we are considering any tinkering, let's put it in Queensland Cup, New South Wales Cup first. Please. Let's not just put it straight into the NRL.
Yes, fair point. Yep.
High Cam, when they enforced the high tackle rule, they needed to enforce the players walking off the mark. All we see is players sidestepping. What do you think about that?
I feel as though the referees are doing a pretty good job at policing this. I feel as though when you see guys walking off the mark, it's something that is, as I said, policed quite strongly these days. I think, sort of going back a bit, blokes would walk off the mark and play the ball sort of wherever they felt like it. But now I think the referees are pretty tight on that one.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good with it. They're pretty reasonable too. They don't stop all the time, but when it's brazen.
With these blowouts, right? Now, people are raising the issue about rule changes and has that influenced the blowouts. We heard Wayne Bennett say that it's the clubs need to take more responsibility with the setup of their club and I guess the culture of the club. It's not helping the players play well. Where do you sit on it?
Mate, I think it's a mixture of both. Yep. I do believe that it's hard because they implemented it so quickly without any time to learn the systems. It has revealed clubs that are, I guess, managed well, because the clubs that are managed well, they all get on board, they all learn it.
They adapt, mate. They adapt quickly.
Exactly, like you guys did. I mean, you walk us through how you guys adapted.
Yeah, well,
quickly,
and it was pretty. It was sort of common sort of thinking within the people of rugby league and fans to say the new rules were to stop the Melbourne Storm wrestling. Okay, now it took us a couple of weeks, and we didn't quite adapt as quickly as other clubs, but you learn about how the game has changed, and okay, the new rules are enforced this way. What style of football do you need to play? And for many people out there, they thought, yes, it's the end of the Storm.
Yes,
they can't strangle teams out of it. Well, you adapt quickly and you find ways to play the game to the certain rules that are applied to the match. And now, again, like they win the premiership last year. Now they're sitting on top of the competition again. They're premiership favourites now in 2021. So I agree with you that there's been club, like Wayne Bennett mentioned about, the mismanagement of lists and all that sort of, that's been happening for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the new rules have done, and I feel as though that this is the main contributor to the blowouts. What the new rules have done is it has exposed those clubs with the mismanaged rosters and things happening sort of in front office that aren't helping things on the field. It's exposed them even more.
Absolutely.
So it's made the gap between the good clubs who adapt quickly to change and the ones that don't. It's made that gap even wider than it was before. Now, the thing that I sort of look at now is the chat around expanding the competition, putting another club in Brisbane. Like, where does that put us now? Does that now put us a further 5 years away? Because look at the talent in the competition now. Is it good enough to sustain another team?
Yes,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Quickly, the tips. Manly versus Raiders.
Raiders.
South versus Cowboys.
Ooh, South.
Bulldogs, Roosters.
Roosters.
Sharks, Warriors.
Oh, I'm going to go the Sharkies.
I tell you what, Broncos aren't even playing, but they're going to win 13+. Let's go, baby. That's it. Episode done and dusted. Don't forget, if you missed anything from the show, make sure you download the SEN app. Grab the podcast. We'll catch you next weekend. We'll catch you next Wednesday from midday on SEN.